Hello, hello, hello. It's Sham Sadasivan again. Great to have you today on the 19th of January, 7 p.m. India time. My first LinkedIn live of the year, and I'm really, really glad to be back. What an exciting start to the year it has been. For me, my work. Hopefully, everyone's safe. Hopefully, everyone's doing all right. I'm in Bangalore. Things is getting a little weird and crazy again. So I hope that all of you are doing well. Um, this year, I really want to bring to you stories and experiences from people who have made some really interesting transitions in their careers. And today, I have a guest who I met on LinkedIn and met online for the first time very recently. What a wonderful story she has, going from well, like me, going from engineer to something else, but going to something which is very, very different. I know nothing about this area, so I am very curious to find out what she does, how she does it. It's Apurva Joshi. She's a health coach. She's a nutritionist. She does a lot of amazing stuff, and of course, she's amazing on LinkedIn as well. So that's how we got to know each other. And without much further ado, let's invite her to the room. Hi, Apurva. How are you?
Hi Sam, how are you?
Hey, doing well, doing well. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's so good to be here.
It is, isn't it? First of all, I'm like really, really excited that you're my first guest of the year, and I'm also
Yeah.
excited that you have shared so much on LinkedIn already, and I was like, no, no, I've got to get you here and talk to you about it. So thank you so much for making the time to join me here today. And I can see already that you are super, super popular. We have, I think, over 30 people already in and coming as we speak. So I want to welcome everybody. Happy New Year, folks, and welcome to our first LinkedIn Live that I'm hosting for you today. So, Apurva, uh, where do I begin? Yeah, I've always had this doubt. Whenever I get a guest in, I'm like, what question am I going to hit them with first? But well, I'm a career coach, and where we should start with. What's a health coach? Yeah, tell us, what does a health coach do?
Okay, so a lot of people, get confused between what does a nutritionist do and what does
Yeah.
a health coach do and what is
Yeah.
the difference. So a
Yes.
nutritionist looks at you from only nutrition point of view that if
Mm-hmm.
Sham has these three issues and these are his health goals, then how do I plan his meals and how do I plan his nutrition based on these goals and these health issues. That's
Mm-hmm.
what a nutritionist would do. A health coach looks at it from a slightly more holistic perspective. Like I may not be able to give you a plan for your say personal training like exercises, or I may not be able to give you a plan for how you should go about managing your stress or mental health, etc. But I can identify what all aspects do you need to work on from health point of view. So I can nudge you to see a personal trainer so that you do better at exercise, or I can nudge you to see a therapist if I think like you need help with your mental health. For example, I can nudge
Mm-hmm.
you to get some blood work done, so make sure that on all aspects of good health you're staying on top of all of that. So a health coach does a slightly more holistic health related work. A nutritionist does like only nutrition related work.
Okay, okay, okay. So would it be fair to say that there are specializations in this area and you are more of a generalist looking across? Would that be fair?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
would. Okay. Hey, that sounds very similar to what I do, to be honest. And so there are people who help specifically with interviews, specifically with transitions, specifically with the development, and I kind of cover a whole range of this kind of work with my clients as well, who might come to me with a holistic kind of career change need, and then we get to the bottom of it, and I kind of point people to different spaces as well. So sounds like a kind of a generalist, holistic view at health. Yeah.
Yeah, and right now, if you see the people who come to me for any issues, like be it diabetes, obesity, or any other issues,
Mm-hmm.
most likely nobody has just one issue. They will come to you with like only when they have like an array of issues that they need to address, then they will consult somebody. So I
Yes.
even need to have all of those skills under my belt to to be able to help them truly.
Oh, so true. The timing of getting help is becoming so important. That in itself is a fascinating question. I was just talking to somebody who said, "What's a good time to get a career coach?" And I'm like, "Before it's too late." No,
I think that's very true with my work as well. Like before it's too
right.
late,
Before it's
preferably.
too late. So, kind of recognize when you need some help, and it takes some, courage and takes some um, real strength of mind to actually approach somebody and ask for help and try to make things better. So, thank you. What a great way to start. So, I just want to acknowledge the presence of all our guests and say, hey, say hello. I'd love to know who is here with us. I don't know until you actually say hello. I know there's a bunch of you there. Please do say hi and good evening, hello, wherever you're dialing in from. We're just getting started. If you've just joined us with Apurva Joshi, who's just told us what the difference between being in the health field is versus being specifically a health coach. So, Apurva, I'm going to jump right into the title of our discussion, which is the most fascinating aspect. We'll come to more about health coach in a second, but I'd love to know how this transition happened. So, one of the things that most, in my sessions, our audience really loves to know is how do these actual transitions happen, and what are the steps you might have taken. So, where does it begin? The move to a health coach. What's step one?
So to be honest, I would like to first tell you that the story starts that I'm an accidental health coach. I did not plan on becoming one to begin
Okay.
with. I was working as a technology consultant in one of the big consulting firms. And when I decided to quit my job, I did not really think of, what is the exact thing I want to do after this. But I had always been a foodie and I was already interested in like something to do with health basically. So I started with my own healthy food business. I found a few partners and we started with like a chain of outlets that was selling healthy Indian food. And slowly, I mean, some things did not work very well. Like, some things they wanted to do differently. I wanted to do differently. So then I was about to start another healthy food business. But then I realized that there is a lot of misinformation in the market about what healthy is. And there are a lot of
Mhm.
people even selling something that's not healthy under the name of health. So when I do things my way, I thought I should do them better, that I should actually learn about what is healthy food before I start to sell it. So I thought, let's get educated in this field to learn about it. And when I
Mhm.
was getting educated in this field of, food and nutrition, I really liked the whole process of counseling. Like along with my college, I was also going to going to a clinic as an intern to learn about how this whole thing works while I was studying. And I really liked the whole process of counseling to, be able to see a difference that you make in people's lives. And that kind of grew on me slowly. So that's the reason I decided to stick around and work as a health coach rather than going back to working, as a starting my own food business again.
Right, right, right. I've heard so many stories of career transitions, and what you have said now, it started accidentally. I'm going to tell you, my observation is, even though the first step might have been accidental, you did intentionally pursue it after a bit, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. But
Yes.
I mean, when I decided to change my career from consulting, the plan was never to become a health coach.
No,
But
health coach. Yes,
yeah.
yes, yes. Yeah, it's amazing. So, how you found health and you found nutrition and you found it in that space, and when did you start taking kind of intentional steps? So at some point in time you might have found it interesting, right? So um, the reason I ask is this, right? So we find things that are interesting all the time. I mean, I find like a new thing I want to do every day, right? It's like I want to do this, I want to do that. There's like tons of ideas. When you find something you like, I think a lot of us struggle with picking something and actually taking it through to completion and becoming like you have, specifically a health coach, which is a journey you may have found yourself accidentally falling into, but then you pursued it and did it, right? So, how does that happen? So, once you kind of go, that looks interesting, how did you go about that?
I think one of the things that, I would say that helped me in making this decision was giving myself enough time to figure out what is this profession all about. That not rushing into things or not, so when I started first, like when I started working as an intern, I used to think that becoming a nutritionist will only be about, making diet plans, for example, that this is what I'll be making some calculations and giving that to people, that this is what you need to eat. and I was always an introvert before that. Like, I did
Mm-hmm.
not anticipate that it would involve talking to people at that great a length. I did not
Mm-hmm.
anticipate that, it would be getting to know people that well and getting involved in their journey and doing all of that. But when I started doing that somehow, I mean, that was when it struck that this I really like doing this. And as an introvert, also, I really liked talking to so many people and getting involved and helping them make their life better. And because it somehow started becoming very fulfilling for me to become a part of so many people's lives and help them get better at it, that is when I realized that, okay, this is what I need to do. And I started with a job, I started with an internship or a job that was nothing like what I had imagined. So
Mm-hmm.
I could, in the first few months when I was working, I would think that this is not something I'm going to do for too long. I just 6 more months and I'm going to quit, I'll do something else. But
Right.
slowly I gave it more time. When I started seeing the results, that's when I realized that, okay, I'm not going to give up on this in 6 months. I'm going to stick around longer to see how the whole thing develops. So it is about, I would say, giving a particular change enough time for letting it
Ah.
like bloom and letting it get to a point where you figure out that is this for me or no.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh,
that's
how
what I would
wonderfully put.
say for me.
No, how wonderfully put. I mean, give it a chance to actually, come true, or give it a chance to actually something to happen. Um, if I reflect back like 20 years or something when I started my career, I don't think this would have been a problem because we were kind of in that space of wanting to give it a year, give it a few years even. So some of those things about career change, people say, when should I change? How long should I be in a job? And some people say 2 3 years. Some people say that's okay, if you don't like it, quit. So there's obviously varied views on this, and I think the influx of choice and so much information makes us feel like if it's not working immediately you jump, if it's not working immediately so there seems to be this. I also feel it, right? And I'm watching my children grow. It's like that instant gratification. I want to see it work like now. Right? I want to do it. Like, I mean, take like movies, right? I mean, we used to wait for months for it to come to theater, then buy a ticket, and then now it's like boom, Netflix, boom, click, done. And if it doesn't work, the internet is down. It's so frustrating. So what you've said, I think, really lands the point that even in that world and context of today, giving it that time to let it actually happen, and as you said, give it a chance to succeed, right? Because good things take time, don't
Yeah, definitely.
they? I just wanted to take a second to welcome Mr. Sri Krishna Joshi, Abhishek Singh, Shivam, Johnny. Hi, hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you have joined us and have not said hello in the chat, please do so. I'll be happy to put you up on screen for Apurva to say hello as well. Thank you
So
for joining us. Apurva has been talking to us about how a transition into health coach, her transition actually began. It started with a interest, but then some intentional steps, starting with an internship and giving it time to actually work.
So
So,
adding to the last discussion that like we just had, like how I said that you have to give it enough time. So
mhm,
because you mentor a lot of people with career change, how do
yes.
you help them decide how long to give it time, or
Oh,
this is not their calling, then change to
yeah.
something else? How do you decide upon that?
Oh, what a million-dollar question, yeah. Seriously, it's a really hard question to answer, right? So there's two ways of looking at it. One, like many things, there's all couple of ways of looking at it. One is you set yourself a timeline and say that's it. I'm going to give it like 6 months, as you said. It's a 6 month internship. I'm getting paid anyway. Let me just work on it. Or if you're getting experience in an unpaid, I hope there are no unpaid internships anymore. But anyway, so you're getting experience, whatever. So you make a call and say, hey, I'm going to go in. I'm going to do this. My decision is made. And if that is the case, then you have taken a decision upfront and you need to stick to it because the distractions are there's too many, right? So you need to kind of take a call and go ahead and commit to it. The second is when you decide to quit. And deciding to quit can be a really hard decision, but sometimes it is very, very important to do it because you've realized that this is not going to work out. Now, the real question to ask is when are you going to know? How are you going to know when to quit? Because in the first one, when you're saying 6 months, if you go in with doubt, you're finished. You'll be just like half here, half there. You're not committed. Nothing's going to happen. So you go in full on. But then when you know that you're done, right? So you're committed and you're done. So that knowing that done is a very personal thing. It could be um, how much risk you're willing to take, how much of bank balance you have, how much of growth that you thought you'd get but you're not getting, or to be honest, something much better comes along. It could be a million different reasons, right? So how do you decide how long to give it? Extremely personal question. But I think more than the real question to ask before you commit to something is, when do you know you need to uh, pull out basically and quit? One of the best things I've read is Stephen Dubner of Freakonomics fame, who wrote the book Freakonomics. He had this podcast called Do More Quitting. They did a bunch of research and said, people who end up doing good things actually say no more. They actually quit more stuff, because quitting many things is a actual indicator of success. Yeah. Um, Abhishek has asked a question along these lines. Why don't we build on this, right? So Abhishek's asked a question, Apurva. Sham, I also have same question and thought, how to know when to break the chain and pursue something else. Okay, so let's build on this. Yeah, Apurva, why don't we do this together, right?
So I think you would be in a better place to answer this, but I can answer it from my point of view. That for
Please.
me personally, I have quit something that I was doing twice till now. I quit my technology consulting career. When I knew how to quit, that was, I stopped. I was doing very well in that career. Like, I was leading a team of a few people. I was very important to the team, and the work that I was doing was getting appreciated. I was getting paid well. But there came a point where I stopped enjoying what I was doing every day. So for me, that is a very important thing, that I should look forward
Yeah.
to my work every day. That if I don't enjoy, if I don't put my heart and soul into my work every day, I should not be in that profession. And that
Yeah.
happened for me with consulting, that I was just doing things because I was supposed to do things. That is when I realized that, okay, I need to quit this. The
Mhm.
second time around, when I quit the health business that I was in with a few other partners, I did not agree with the ethics of the business. And that is something I take very, that is very important to me. The kind
Absolutely.
of quality and the kind of, things that we were selling as a part of our business, I did not agree with that. And I will not let my personal brand or my ethics suffer for anything else. So that is when I knew that I have to quit. So these were two very important parts, that, I shouldn't compromise on my ethics. I shouldn't stop enjoying what I do every day. So those were the cutoffs for me, that, this is the time when I quit. But for different people, this can be different things. Like, for example, for somebody who has a lot of financial responsibility, it can also be when your job is not paying your bills. You need to do something else that will pay you better. It can be something like that for somebody else. So I think that is something that one needs to decide personally, that when do I quit this. For me,
Yes.
I will, like, if I have to quit the career of being a health coach, it will be when I stop enjoying what I do every day. That is the time when I'll quit that. So what are your
Got it.
thoughts on this?
So I'm gonna with all due respect to the challenges people face in different situations and specific contexts, I'm going to try and do it in simple two ways, right, Abhishek? I'm going to say, you either quit when you're going up, right, on an upward trajectory, or you're going down. Upward trajectory, you quit on a high. Yeah. Virat Kohli has famously resigned as captain and so on in sport, and I have seen famous CEOs kind of quit at the top of their game. So people quit at the top, right? So I think quitting at the top, or when it's on a decline, like Apurva, you mentioned a bad experience or things are not going very well, you kind of on a decline, right? Both situations, if you're going up or going down, you need to. So if you're going up, you need to quit before the peak, because you don't know, what's going to happen after the peak. Most likely plateau or decline. You don't want to be there. You want to leave at a high. When you are going down, when things are not going very well for you, you have to do it before the absolute bottom, before the volcano erupts, basically, right? So when do you pick is an extremely subjective question. But if you are going on a high, think about leaving on a high. I have done that in every single transition I've made. Every time I changed a role, people said, why don't you stick on for longer, good things are ahead. And I said, not really. I think the good things have already happened. It's either going to flatten or it's going to dip. So I changed. So basically it's about, we talk about these S curves, right? So it's about going up, and then it's going to dip. So before the dip, you start another S curve, you start another S curve, you start another S curve. You kind of try and find another wave to ride. That is the intentional upward slope. If you're on a decline, things are not going well, the conditions are not good, not a good team, the team's doing badly, please do not wait for the situation to hit rock bottom. Use your intellect, use your network, use your support system, use your people. Try and find something. You shouldn't find yourself in a really bad situation in an organization or any kind of work where you have not anticipated it. There the problem becomes, it's a huge question of emotions and our bias towards whatever decisions we have made. We have confirmation bias, we have biases towards historical decisions that we have made, that we want a loss aversion, because basically we want to avoid the losses of we are putting bad money after good money after bad. We've made taken a bad decision and then we're kind of sticking onto it. Don't allow that to happen. So if you're on a high, leave before you're, leave on a high. If you're kind of declining, leave before it becomes the worst possible situation. Try and do something else and figure something out. So this is how, when to break the chain, Abhishek. I would say when is basically, before it becomes too late. Again, that's a very subjective question. If you want to talk about it, drop me a line. um
I
Fantastic
think it
exploration
was
it
a
was.
very, very good answer, very different way of looking at it from
Yeah.
what I said. That reminds me of, something that I heard somewhere, that you should quit when people still ask you why rather than why not. So that
Mm.
just,
Oh, wonderful. You should quit when people still ask you why are you quitting rather than why not quit. So why not quit means it's already too late, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. That is something I say about interviews also. For example, when people talk about personal brand and marketing and wanting to grow in their careers, one of the things I say is, if you're applying for a job, you're already too late. You need to really network and find out and be there. Be the one person who they really want. So, um, Chandra, a dear friend, has asked a question. Sham, what do you think is triggering the great resignation today? Do you see the great resignation in your work, Apurva? Are you seeing people kind of quitting work for whatever reason? Are you seeing this?
No, I don't think people, I mean, I don't think our industry works the same way as tech or, other
Mm-hmm.
industries right now. Right now, because we are in so much in need of the kind of work we are doing right now. So people, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think, are quitting. People are switching from, a lot of people who were in jobs earlier have gone on their own and, started become entrepreneurs basically, or, started their own
Sure.
practice. That has happened. But I wouldn't say like not too many people also have quit. So that is not happening in the health industry, I would say.
Okay. Okay. So not, you're not seeing that much.
No.
Um, my take on it is, Chandra, that I look at it from the kind of Maslow hierarchy, right, of needs. Basically, the Maslow hierarchy is, starts from the basic needs of physiological needs of, in Hindi they say roti kapda makan, basically, shelter, food, clothing. Then you move to further kind of satisfaction at work, etc., etc., and then you reach that kind of self, um, your kind of evolved self, basically, things that appeal to your soul, at the top. So going from basic subsistence all the way to self evolution and satisfaction. I think the great resignation impacts us on all levels. At the bottom, basically, people have realized, for basic requirements, that there might be many other options available to them that they never even considered, that could offer them so much more than basic subsistence. Sustenance, basic sustenance. And at the top level, people have realized that, I think, and I'm looking at it from, maybe, if you want to split it as blue collar, white collar workers, blue collar workers have realized that there are many more opportunities out there that they have not tapped into. And I think the white collar workers have realized that, maybe they're not really doing what gives them the most satisfaction. Maybe they've been caught up. They've got so much time to think about what work really means to them. One of my favorite books is actually David White, an Irish poet. He wrote a book called, um, Crossing the Unknown Sea, um, which is basically almost a poetic book written about what work means to us as human beings, right? And I've read that book a million times, and I've realized that my own kind of realizations came from understanding what work meant to me at a really deep level. So I think the great resignation, I also agree with Apurva that I think it's more of a great redistribution than a great resignation. It's not like people are quitting work and not doing anything, but they're realizing that they are not stuck really. They are, well, the world is a bigger place than they thought, and they can reach other places. They can virtually do much more than they thought. They can scale their impact. I mean, I am a complete COVID initiated kind of entrepreneur, fully digital and so on. This None of this would have been possible before COVID, I think. So
I
very,
think one change, like as we discussed, one change that like now realize that has happened with employers is like earlier there was only one way of employing, that you had to hire nutritionist
mm,
or dietitian sessions and all full time to work with you for 9 hours a day. But there I see like a trend of intrapreneur like of thing, like where people are giving, the employers are giving everybody an option to work from home and to even decide how much work they want to take up, like whether to take up 10 clients every month or 20 or 50 is up to you. You manage your own time, like you manage your own time slots, like they don't tell you that you have to work within these time slots. You can work at any. So people have had to, like refocus and change the way they are working to make sure that the great resignation or redistribution doesn't happen. So I think that has also helped in staying relevant in the last 2 years.
That is true. That is true. I think we are all realizing what work means to us, and organizations have realized that, the organizations that are probably not yet thinking about the employee first are, definitely thinking about them first. So, in terms of getting started on the journey, coming back to our thoughts on, you kind of fell into it and then you gave it some time and you grew it. I know one of the things, Apurva, a lot of people ask me is, when you transition, what are the most important things to consider? And one of the things that comes up a lot is finances and money, and should we save up? Should we? So that's a question I really wanted to ask you, because any change that comes, people, one of the first things they ask me is, should I sort out? Should I save? How many months of saving should I have? This is a very common and very interesting question also. So I want to pursue that with you. What is your relationship with money and starting a new career?
I think that's a great question and a very important factor to address. So
Hmm.
when I was switching from a previous career to this, I definitely was very privileged. Like I was very lucky to not have to worry too much about finances, because from my previous job, which paid well, I had saved up some money, and then I didn't have any liabilities. Like I didn't have any EMI or or uh, anybody's school fees to pay or anything like that. So I was free to make my own decision based on what I really
Yeah.
like doing that way. I had I had, I could save up for the next 1 or 2 years to give it time to see how it goes. And it's not just about having enough money to support your own expenses. It also kind of gives you the two ways in which having the finances sorted out already helped me was, one was to make sure that I don't rush into the decision. Like if you run out of your finances within 3 months, then you wouldn't have a choice but to go back to something that you're good at and not give it that much time. So I could give it enough time because I didn't have to worry about finances. And secondly, when it comes to choosing what kind of work you want to do, it gives you a lot more freedom. So the first internship or the job that I started, it did not really pay well. It paid barely anything as compared to what I was drawing earlier. But it was the internship was such that I would get to learn a lot. I would get to learn a lot of different things, the best practices in the industry, and get to do a lot of different kinds of work and talk to a lot more people and realize more issues. So from work point of view, it made complete sense to join such a place. But from finances point of view, it did not make sense. So because my finances were already sorted, I could take that risk of
Take some
joining such a
risks.
place where my
Yeah.
income wasn't going to grow. So it gives you
Hmm.
two kinds of benefits that I saw was, firstly, that you have to give yourself enough time. It lets you do that. And secondly, you can choose different kinds of work without having to worry about how much it is going to pay
Indeed.
you.
Indeed. Indeed. I read this really brilliant quote last week, and I put it up on Insta. I think that the quote says, "Money cannot buy you happiness, but it can get you peace of mind."
Yeah.
and
True.
and I so resonated with that, right? Because to be honest, that's my relationship with money too. Just like you, I had commitments, but then what I had, I would planned for them before I quit and started my own thing. I had planned, and I understood. I knew what money I needed, and I had saved up for a certain amount of time, a couple of years. I said, okay, I'm going to give myself a couple of years to experiment without the pressure of paying my bills, right? And after that, if nothing works out, I can always, write a resume and get a job again or whatever it is, right? But as you said earlier, a very beautiful point about giving it the time it needs. So certain things need some time. Very few things happen in 3 months. Absolutely nothing happens in 1 month. So having the kind of financial peace of mind or that having it in the bank to kind of keep you safe and help you sleep at night is a huge. I did exactly the same thing, by the way. I did not know this of yours, but I did exactly the same thing. I planned it out in a way that it bought me time, and that's another thing I've learned recently. And a lot of influencers in the financial space talk about it, and books have been written about how money is actually time. Money is not really money. Money is actually time. It buys you time to do other things. So wonderful. So kind of create that peace of mind or that bank balance to help you do what you need to do. Fascinating. Okay. Um, the other thing, Apurva, I really want to talk to, because especially because of your connection to health and nutrition and diet, sorry, is the fact that these are all probably different education streams, courses, certificates, degrees, diplomas. There's so many. Same with things like I do a lot of work in tech, so AI, ML, data sciences. People are asking which course to do, which not to do, etc., etc., etc. So how does one kind of start getting the skills and educational qualifications for a health coach? How does that work?
So I mean, this question could be really personalized, because it also depends upon. So a lot of the courses that are available also have prerequisites, like what kind of qualifications do you already have. So one thing, because this whole session is about how to go from becoming an engineer to health coach. One thing that I would definitely like to address is how different switching to tech field versus switching to health coaching is. Because when, say, you are in the tech field, where you are expected to write, maybe make a website or make a project that gives you some kind of outcome. If you are able to do that, if you are able to write the code or make a program that gives you a particular kind of output, nobody really cares whether you are a 12th standard student, or whether you are a qualified engineer from IIT, or whether you are a panwala, because what you did just worked. So
You did the
nothing
job.
else
Yeah.
matters. But when
Yeah.
it comes to health, things work a little differently. Like, when you give, say, about losing weight or managing blood sugars, what you tell one person may not work for another, because our bodies are built very differently, and one wrong decision could impact somebody's life. That can cause like a havoc in somebody's health. So there is an added responsibility attached to becoming a nutritionist or a health coach. And secondly, there also are, like, no, there aren't any regulations when it comes to tech field. It's not a government regulated field. No,
Correct.
nobody asks you that are you qualified to write a piece of code if you are working for a company. But when it
Yep.
comes to becoming a nutritionist, for example, government is trying to get better regulations in place, where only a certain set of people who have done a particular kind of course can practice as a nutritionist.
Mm, mm.
So there are two things that you should consider. A is to make sure that you have enough knowledge and enough experience to be able to help people and to be able to not impact people negatively. And B is to have, in case the government changes its regulations, etc., then to make sure that you are qualified enough to still practice and not go out of business. So these are the two most important things. Now, based on what kind of career do you want to get into, you might look at courses that are part time, you might want to look at courses that are full time, or go back and do your graduation again in another field. So
Yeah.
that is entirely a personal decision. But here is where formal education really helps, because you're not just going to learn about the theory of how things work, but you'll also be learning from very experienced people how to go about handling people, how to go about, making sure that you get to the right problem areas in people's lives and addressing just the bottleneck. So that all comes
Sure.
with a lot of experience and formal education. So that's why that
Got
is very important. The kind of course that you need to do may vary based on what your background is.
Okay, okay. And considering that we're talking about, largely talking about people who might want to change from, like yourself, from one field to another field, we have another wonderful question from Chandra saying, can you talk about transferable skills and how should one package these skills while moving from one industry to another? I'll get a response out to Chandra first, and Apurva would love to hear your thoughts as well. Um,
Right.
the the fact that you've said transferable, Chandra, automatically means there's something to transfer, right? So they're not like completely complementary skills. So there's something in there that you can bring, right? There are two aspects to this. One is what you bring, and other is how do you present it, like you have said, how do you package it? and both areas are problems in my experience. I have suffered from the same thing, and I coach clients through this issue. Number one, many of us don't know what we are good at, or we can't write it down. We cannot tell in 3 bullet points what we do really, really well. When I ask this question to my clients who I start working with, or just randomly in a session or a webinar, people start telling me their titles, their roles, their list of responsibilities. That is not my question. My question is, what are you good at? And by the way, that can stump people quite often for a very long time, because we have not given it enough thought, or we have forgotten what we are good at. We were hired to do something and we are doing something else, and we have completely lost touch with what we do well. Yeah. So number one is, if you want to talk about transferable skills, first you need to know what skills you have. Okay. Um, and what you are really, really good at, because a skill that you're not good at is not going to get you a job. So just to put that out there very plainly. Second is the packaging. Packaging is where our biases, our egos, our personalities all come into play. Because I'll take my own example. When I started as a coach, I one of my viral posts is actually about degrees. When I say that my degrees are useless, my clients don't ask me where I did my engineering. All they want to know is, can I solve their problem? So when you're packaging your skills, my number one tip to everybody is, first know what you're good at. Secondly, pick the ones that you're good at, that are of any use to the other person, and package it in the way they understand, in the language they speak, in the colors they see. Uh, with the people in that space should really get what you are saying. For example, I work in the virtual space, right? So I am not talking whiteboards and standing in a room, and I'm talking more technology, digital. I need to, as my ex-boss used to say, meet the people where they are at, right? So the packaging skills aspect, I have seen extremely dull looking resumes for brand and marketing roles. I have seen extremely um, detailed, verbose resumes for a sales role without any numbers in it. How's that okay? You're a salesperson. You hit numbers. Tell me what numbers you achieved in your last role. Right? So basically, you have to package your skills in a way that is actually making sense to them. Not talking about the 15 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever you 5 years, whatever work that you have done. And one another, I'll stop with this last tip. A resume is not a list of responsibilities and roles and strengths. A resume is simply a list of accomplishments. Whenever I look at a resume, or I look at a CV, or I interview somebody, the only thing in my head is this person worthy of hiring? And then I'm trying to make a connect between what you have done, and I'm thinking to myself, can you do that for me now? Are you in a position to do that for me now? So if you're going to move from one industry to the other, you can move from any industry to any industry if you convince the other person that you can repeat your successes from your last industry in the new industry. And that takes effort and takes personalization and takes some real energy to understand what I really want, so that you can pitch it to me in that way. So hope that helps, Chandra. Purva, yes, I did a long lecture there. Over to you.
No, I think I was listening to, even a lot of things that you said were even helpful for me. So thank you for taking it
No,
down.
absolutely.
When it comes to, like, I would say, transferable skills from what I was doing earlier. So one of the things that, I mean, it may sound odd, but the kind of people I'm trying to help right now, I was them a few years ago. Like, when people say, people who come to me for, say, losing weight, I was obese some time ago when I was still working in consulting. When people tell me that, I have a very busy job and I don't have time to work on my health, again, I was them when I before I started. So I exactly know a lot of pain points of people I work with because I used to be like them. Secondly, so I know where they are coming from. I know what kind of problems they have. So I'm naturally a bit more patient, a bit more receptive to their problems. So I don't have a fixed agenda on mind that, when this person comes, I just have to give them these X number of things to do. I'm willing to listen and understand their problems and customize solutions for them because I want to do that better. Secondly, I would say, because I have worked in the corporate industry before, now when I work as a corporate wellness coach, I know what kind of programs I would hate to see or hate to become a part of.
Yeah.
If somebody gives me a whole, a presentation which has 70 slides with a lot of text and a lot of like information and not enough like question answers, not enough interaction, I'm not going to be wanting to become a part of it. So when I design my corporate wellness challenges or presentations, I know like what kind of content I should be putting based on my own experience, so that helps me. And I'm an engineer by education before I became this, so naturally I would say my brain
Yeah.
is a little algorithmic when it thinks. I have a structured thinking approach, which may or may not have developed if I were, just starting out fresh as a health coach without having the engineering background. I have better technology skills, like a lot of things like setting up my anything to do with technology. I do it better than most people who don't have
Yeah.
this background.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are a lot of different, I mean, and again, these are only the things that I have been able to identify till now. Why what
That
helps me
keeps
from my
changing.
previous career. There may be other things which are more subtle and I don't identify yet. But
Yes.
majority of things is the way I think, like my structured thinking approach. I also from the previous, like I said, that I have operated a food business of my own. So now I also that has broadened the kind of work I can do. Right now I'm working with a couple of food brands who are launching new products. So I work on developing content and health related information for their products for them. So because I've worked on such a thing before, it gives me better knowledge and better understanding of how a food business works. So a lot of, I think, understanding what the client is expecting out of me and the structured thinking to design a solution that is going to work for them is something that comes from my previous career.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. And that's a great example of a transferable skill as well. And saying that, the analytical thinking, the approaches that you learned in technology really helps you throughout. So one of the other things I like to say is, we are the sum total of all our experiences. So we just turn into bigger, more evolved version of ourselves. So we rarely change into something else. We are just growing, growing, growing. Um, and during this journey of growing and changing and accepting new um, new adventures or new roles, or doing new things, Abhishek has got a wonderful question for us, and I think I understand the question. He's saying it is not stupid, Abhishek. There are no stupid questions. I always wanted to ask, how did you put up the courage for saying no? That one thing of us starting. I think Abhishek's question is, how did you say no and start a new path, basically? Or at what point did you decide no? So the quitting question again, I think, first starting on something new. Again, a slightly redrafted way of, I think, asking that, when do you quit, or when do you change, or when do you say no to something, and when you say yes to something?
I think, I mean, for me, my growth is really important. Like when I stop growing in a role, I know that this is no longer for me. Like if I'm not becoming better than if I'm not becoming better than what I was doing yesterday, then I'm stagnant. And I, like you said, that you cannot be on a plateau. You have to either be going high or low. So for me, I could understand that okay, my growth doesn't lie here, so I need to do something else, and I need to be happy with, like I said, I have to be happy with what I do every day. My day should
Mhm.
not be something that I don't look forward to. So at one point where in my previous career in technology consulting, for example, they were going to give me a lot of new, they were going to send me on site to US to begin with. I mean, that was a huge change. And I felt like, okay, where till things were comfortable, I was in my comfort zone working here, and things were just running on an auto mode, it was okay. But then to be putting in that much effort and moving to another country and doing all of that where I don't enjoy what I'm doing, I thought like that was just additional burden that I did not want to take that up. And somebody else, I was sure that somebody else in the team would be more than willing to do that, because most of the people who enjoy what they do, that would be the most ideal opportunity for them to take up.
Absolutely.
That is when that was the cutoff, that I cannot express my interest to leave the organization and then keep working at the same organization. So when they asked me for, you would you want to go on site, I had to say no, and I had to give a valid reason, and I told them the reason that okay, I'm thinking of quitting, I cannot continue anymore. So once you have expressed your interest, there is no way you can stay in that organization. That's when I knew that I have to quit this.
Yes, yes. Yeah, courage to say no and walk away from something. Uh, as I said, I'll take the whole going up, going down analogy again. When I was doing very well, in my case, Abhishek, whenever I felt like there was not much more for me to grow or learn or achieve, I felt like I need to start, but you need to make a start early. You can't make a start after it's so late that you are already declining after the peak. So you need to recognize that when things were going bad. One of my personal reflections is when I was in my last role. One day I came home at like 6 p.m. I told my wife I'm gonna change clothes, freshen up, and come down for dinner. And then I went into the bedroom and I said, I'm just going to lie down for 2 minutes. Um, and then I lay down and I woke up next day at 9 o'clock or something like that. It was like and that had never happened to me before. I just like got knocked out for like 15 hours, 16 hours. And my parents were there at that time and they were just like terrified. I mean, they thought I was just something was wrong. So um, that day I realized that, yeah, I pushed it too far. So I need to make some big corrections. I'm very lucky that nothing worse happened. I was just sleeping in my bed, but it could have been much worse than that. You hear so many stories of health turning into the kind of the lowest priority, and then becoming too late. So Abhishek, if there's one thing we're telling you, take action before it's too late. Either way, up or down. Okay. Um, Apurva, Chandra's got another fascinating question for us, yeah, and especially because you play the role of health coach, right? I mean, what would you say to this question?
I think, I mean, again, this is one thing that I have been blessed with. I'm very privileged on this front also, that my family has always been supportive of everything that I was doing. That, when I decided to switch from technology consulting to, starting my own food business, my dad did tap into his network to figure out that, who could give some guidance or who could partner up with me to do this. So they were always the wind beneath my wings. Like, even when I decided to switch from doing a health business to getting educated, one thing was that they never had any financial expectations of me. So I didn't have that burden of, what will I ask my family to do if I can't do this. So they did not expect anything of me, but they just wanted me to excel at anything that I do. So they were very supportive. They were very even when I was, for example, when I decided to take up the first job that I took up in this industry, which did not really pay well, I was really thinking, and in the first few days, I was thinking that, am I doing the right thing? That, is this going to help me grow better or no? I will be earning such a lesser salary than what I'm used to. Where, my dad he told me at that point that, if finances are the challenge that you are facing, why you don't want to do this, then you don't have to worry about it. That we can take care of it if you can't support yourself. But
Mm,
focus on what kind of career do you want to pursue. Like, if this is going to get you somewhere where where you want to go and where you will be earning skills that are going to help you in the future, then keep the finances apart and just do the work. That
sure.
really helps in staying put in that particular job, staying put in this particular career, to right now come to a point where I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Had I not had that support, probably I would have switched to something else or taken up something else a lot earlier. So that is how I would say they supported me. They didn't have
Super.
any expectations, so I had the freedom to do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted, and that
Yeah,
is, I would say, a huge
you're
factor
very
in making any career switch successful.
find that if you have a great support system, you're very lucky, very fortunate. So was I. I also worked at it, and just like you, kind of shared my aspirations with them. And Chandra, I've just pasted a link to a post I wrote recently, very similar to what you have just said, Apurva. And what I did was, in my way, very similar to what you did, but in my own way, I kind of wrote it down. Okay. So I wrote this, I took a picture from my diary and I put it on a LinkedIn post a few days ago. I've just put the link in there for you, Chandra, and others. On 9th August 2015, I said, I want to be my own boss. Okay. It took me 5 years to make it happen. Okay. It took me 5 years, but in that entire 5 years, my family was fully involved in my thinking. So anything I was thinking, anything I was trying to kind of brainstorm, anything I was approaching or talking to somebody new, uh, an extended family, not just my wife, my kids, my parents, my sister, everyone was kind of involved and aware of what I was actually trying to do, what I was trying to achieve. And by keeping them involved, by writing it down and keeping them involved, I was able to get them kind of bought into the idea. And to Apurva's earlier point taking time, about taking time, I took 5 years. Okay, I gave it a chance to make it happen by also allowing my family to really to understand what I wanted to do, and to also get on board. So these things, big decisions take time. So fine. Eventually, and of course, the ideas also changed over time. So eventually, they were very supportive. Yeah.
So just another like follow-up question to our whole discussion right now. I'm sure you
Hmm.
must be helping a lot of, as clients, you must be like helping a lot of people who are right now planning that particular change. And if you ever figure out that maybe some client does not have enough support from their family, or they think that it's stupid what they're trying to do right now, why would you want to leave a well-established career to do something like this, then how, how do you ask them to go about it? Like, how do you ask them if they don't have that support, and how do they function without it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Your line is getting a bit bad, Apurva. The connection is a bit broken. The audio and video. If there's a better internet connection, do try to switch if possible.
Okay.
Um, so your question is, if there is a lack of support, what do you do? How do you approach it? Right? Yeah, it's
Right.
better now. Yeah, yeah. If there's lack of support, what do you do? So for this, I really so here's the way we are looking at it. I want to do something, and my family is not supporting it. That's the way we tend to look at it. What we need to look at is what is something that holistically comes together as a good goal to have. So I want to go to America and start a new career, but my family says, whatever. Or I want to go into an entrepreneurship, and my family and friends say don't, right? So it is always us versus them. I think that in itself is a incorrect framing of the problem. I think we need to find a framing of the problem that says, how can we all be in a better place, right? And for that is what family is, isn't it? um, because if we are framing the problem as us, me versus them, then I don't think we are doing justice to the family construct. Right? So what I use is a simple tool called the wheel of life. And the wheel of life basically is to do an audit of your entire situation: family, friends, work, money, housing and home, where you are, relationships, health, wellness, whatever. You can put everything that you like, and then you rank everything, and then you say, hey, where am I holistically? What's my kind of life audit? Yeah. And we realize that sometimes we may be very low on career, which is why I talk to a lot of new clients on career. You realize, okay, you are a 4 on 10 on career, but then you look at your health is 8 on 10, your family is 9 on 10, your money is 8 on 10, then you go, actually my overall balance is pretty good, no? So instead of trying to quit and go and do something crazy, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do a course and maybe do something a little different, right? So you kind of understand that the holistic view is very important, and framing of a problem is so powerful, I have to say, that if we frame it as a bit of a competition or black and white, then we will pursue the black and white question only. And the thing is, it becomes over and over. It becomes the me versus you, me versus you, me versus you, and it goes into this rat hole. I like to help people frame the problem as, how can we all be in a better place, and then bring people into the discussion rather than push them away.
It should become like all of us versus the problem rather than me versus them.
Yes, all of us versus the problem. Yes, Apurva. Thank you. Yeah, that pretty much sums up our I think last half an hour conversation. It should be all of
Yeah.
us versus the problem.
Yeah,
So
I think the way you said, how most people come to you that maybe they may be lacking in just one thing and the rest of the things are pretty balanced. Most of the people who come to me, I would say they define success mostly in terms of the amount of money they earn, or how well they are doing in their career. And success is never related to what they achieve in terms of health. So it becomes my
yeah,
job to make them realize that
to
this is
make them
also a
realize that. Yeah,
parameter that
yeah,
you need to judge your life by. Like, you can't,
indeed, indeed.
you do well on everything else, but if you don't have good health to support you through your years, then it is not going to take you anywhere.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Absolutely. There's that old joke someone told me when I was working very, very hard, and quite unfit, at least 10, 15 kilos heavier, very bad scores in my annual health checkup. And someone says, you don't want to be the person who, when you're 65, you're really unfit, but then you say, I have great health insurance because I made a lot of money. You don't want that. And I'm like, actually, you know what? That's true. I don't want to be unfit with great health insurance. I would rather be fit without any health insurance. So, anyway, and as one other friend says, spend money on all these things now. So, you don't have to spend in hospital. Look after yourself now. Prevention is definitely better. Um, okay. You know what? I've really enjoyed myself. Yeah. It's been like 55 minutes. It's crazy how time flies. Apurva, any other thoughts you have that you would like to share with our guests before we conclude?
I think just a few tips that I would say if anybody is looking to make this kind of switch, then my top tips, if I want to give, the first one would be like, you would give importance to the kind of experiences you gain from people who have worked in the industry. Like this is one industry where learning from people's experiences is way better than what you will learn from just reading theory or reading books or anything. So give priority to taking up internships, taking up jobs that are going to help you grow rather than just looking at money or just looking at where it is going to take you. Secondly, look at what kind of formal education will help you get there. I mean, to get you the kind of confidence to operate. I also have seen like people who know how to help people but haven't really taken up a formal course but did not muster up the courage to start their practice. So being
Yes.
qualified gives you that kind of confidence that okay, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one would be to make sure you sort out all the factors to give yourself enough time. So, be it family support, be it
Yes.
finances, be it,
Holistically.
your mental health while you're trying to achieve it. That was one thing that I would say I didn't have the confidence for a long time when I got into this career. It took me a while to get that confidence that, okay, I'm doing the right thing and I'm establishing myself in this field. So, give yourself enough time and plan that well so that, you don't give up too early before you start to
Right.
succeed. So those would be my top tips for anybody who's trying to switch from engineering to becoming a health coach.
Becoming a health coach. Thank you so much. One last question for you. Are you your health coach also? Do you look after yourself too?
I do look after myself, but to be honest, sometimes I don't take my health as seriously as I take
Yes.
my client's health. So it is always so when it comes to my own health, I would say that for example, the kind of supplements one should be taking for a particular health issue. It is very easy for me to tell a client that why are you not doing this every week, but when it comes to my own self, there's nobody asking me that why are you not taking this. So it is a little difficult to manage my own health that way. Do ask my friends and colleagues from the industry time to time to take their
Yeah.
advice on what I should do. That really helps.
Yes, I'm going to end on that note as well, saying that how much ever coaching I do, or how much ever training I do, I need my own support system and coach as well, and that only kind of reinforces the whole work that we are doing. I help people with careers, you help people with their health, and we need our own career and health coaches also. So thank you so much for all the people who help us. Thank you for all the people who came and joined us for the wonderful questions. Apurva, it's been a fascinating conversation being with you today.
I
And I hope
really
we can
enjoyed the
meet
conversation
again.
today. I mean, the kind of questions that came up, the kind of discussion
Yeah,
we had amongst ourselves, it was really fun.
yeah, really fun. And every time I do a live, I'm like, I want to do more, but I want to do more, but I'll stay true to my own advice and say, we are reaching the peak. Let's stop here. Okay. All right, Apurva. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you some other time very soon. Okay. Bye bye.
Thank you and good night.
Good night.